Adam Friedman, Rivals.com, here at the Charlotte Rivals camp with Miami Hurricanes great, as you can probably tell by the gear here. Clinton Portis, NFL star for my Washington, then Redskins, now Commanders. You're traded for Champ Bailey back in 2004, I think it was. Yeah, I'll say, right? Although I love Champ too, but Miami Hurricane great. Let's talk about Miami for a minute because there's a lot going on with the Canes. You guys were just down there for a visit also with your son, and we're going to talk about your son's recruiting process in a minute. But being back on campus in Coral Gables, what was that like, just to see everything again?
Man, the realization of how much the school has grown is beautiful. I mean, just everything that they have. We sit and look back like, I wish you would have had this when I was in school. You know, I probably would have stayed in school. But to be around that campus again, all the memories that came with it, to meet with Coach Cristobal and see what they're doing, you know, what he's putting together, the chemistry that the team had, watching Cam Ward. I think they got big things going, you know, and of course you always want to see your team return to prominence. So here's the opportunity. I think they have a lot of young talent, and with Cam Ward leadership, I think they got a chance.
They might have the best offensive line since you were in school too, right?
There's probably a better O-line, you know.
There are a few NFL guys on your offensive line, though.
Yeah, but my O-line was the great thing about my O-line when you look at Big Mac and you look at all the guys that I played with, the chemistry that they had, you know, they were real friends. To this day, they're still real friends. Like Bibler, they're still going to text, they're still going to reach out and call. So I think if that team gets the chemistry that those guys had, especially with Rumberg being around, with Big Mac being around. So if they can get that chemistry, I mean, those guys are still Joaquin, like they're still friends to this day. They're still crazy to this day, and that's what you want. You know, if you can get that to return, it's a beautiful thing.
Well, you guys won the national championship in 2001. That running back room was legendary. You, Willis McGahee, Frank Gore, all in the same running back room. What kind of talent do you see on this Miami Hurricanes team at that position right now?
Well, I think you got to get the competitive edge back in all positions at a school. So often kids come in and everybody just turn over the keys. You know, it's like, oh, you're the man here, you know, and they take the competition side of things away. We didn't have that opportunity. You know, Najee Davenport, Jared Payton, myself, Willis, Frank, you know, it was, boy, if I don't do what I'm supposed to do today, one of these kids going to be starting, you know. And I think you got to get back to that. You know, if you look at the wide receiver room, you had Reggie Wayne, Santana Moss. Andre Johnson had the red shirt, you know, and Andre Johnson just got elected into the Hall of Fame. So that shows you the kind of talent that we had. So if you could gather a bunch of talent and get the competition back, I think that's what sets schools apart. And when you look at the Alabama, you look at the Georgias, they always have people competing. And other schools, they're not competing because you just turn the keys over. Like, oh, you're a five-star, you're the man here, you know, and you got to get back to the competition side of things.
What similarities do you see on this Miami team right now from when you were there?
You got a bunch of young, you know, the beauty is you got a bunch of young kids that's hungry. So you're starting to get that competitive nature. A lot of kids that feel like, no, I deserve to be playing. You have those kids again compared to the kids that's like just okay with being at the University of Miami or just saying, I go to the U, you know, like you got kids that's young, that's fun, that's competitive, and they're eager to prove to themselves that, hey, I can do this and I deserve to be doing this compared to just like I belong here or, you know, like I'm the man, come on, you know. So that's what I seen in the practice. I seen a lot of kids competing, and it kind of remind me, you know, in '99 when we came, no one would have ever said, hey, you know what, you guys are going to be the best team of all time. You know, it was hard work and dedication that got us to that point. But I knew when I signed with the University of Miami, just being in that locker room, everyone was excited about somebody else. You know, Reggie Wayne was excited about Santana. Santana was excited about Najee. Najee was excited about Ed Reed. And that's what you have again. Other kids are saying like, oh, nah, man, he going to be good. Like, he going to shine. So I love it.
Yeah. Well, take me back to when you did sign with Miami because, like, you were obviously a heavily recruited guy. You're Gainesville High School, Florida wasn't really on you, I guess. But what other schools were close to getting you at that point?
So the thing was, everyone wanted me to play DB. So University of Florida, Florida State, all of those schools were recruiting me at DB. And at the time, you had Jerome Bettis, Jamal Anderson, Eddie George, like all of the big backs. So I'm 170. I don't want to tackle them, you know. It was just one of those things. Like, everyone was recruiting me at DB, and my junior year I started playing running back. So, and I began to like it. So I'm like, nah, I think I can play running back, or I want to play both ways. So a lot of the teams just kind of shut it down. Like, hey, no, we want you at DB, and I'm like, man, I want to play both ways, which to them wasn't realistic. You know, I still think I could have played both ways, but to fast forward, I believed in myself at running back. So I went on my visit, and like I just told you, everyone was excited about the next man. And I had a conversation with Edgerrin James, and it was one of those conversations like, are you coming here, kid? I'm like, are you leaving? You know, if you leaving, I'm coming. And he said it shouldn't matter. You know, whether I leave or stay, you should want to come here for the competition. And that always stuck with me. And, you know, when I think about the locker rooms, or the rooms that I was in, you know, having Frankie G, having Willis, having Najee, and then going to the NFL, having Terrell Davis, Mike Anderson, Orlandis Gary, coming to the Redskins, having Liddell Betts, you know, playing with Sean Alexander, Larry Johnson. Like, I've always been up for the competition. So to me, I think Edge installed a mindset in me to say, hey, man, if you got it, you got it. You're not scared to compete. And I think I've been lead dog in all of those rooms. So that's a testament.
Offensive Rookie of the Year in the NFL with the Denver Broncos is a pretty big deal too. Take me back through this recruiting process though. Like, you got to have some great visits that you had during the recruiting process, right? Like, were there other schools that really tried to wow you with some visits?
You know, I think my best friend was at the University of Maryland. So that was my first visit, and instantly, like, I was a man at the University of Maryland on my visit, you know, and it was one of those things where I was excited. And Maryland was probably the lead dog, honestly, just because my best friend was already playing there. And then I went to Southern Miss just to go back home because I'm originally from Laurel, Mississippi. And my third visit was to the University of Miami. I was kind of over the process, like, man, all right, I'm sick of this. It's between Maryland and Miami. And I knew that, and just on my visit, you know, when you get somewhere and it feels like home, which that's what happened. I got to Miami, it felt like this is where I belong. Like, everybody here is like me. You know, I'm hanging with Santana, and it's like one of those things like, yeah, these dudes like me. Like, this is where I need to be. So it was one of those just blind shots. Like, man, I'm coming to the U. You know, like, these people just like me.
Nice. Well, the recruiting process, I'm sure, has changed a lot since you went through it, and now you're going through it with your son, Clinton Portis, a 2026 defensive back in South Carolina right now. He's been on a bunch of visits. You guys were just down at Miami. You guys have been all over the place in the last few weeks, few months. What's it like now going through this process with him?
It's crazy, you know, and I continuously tell him, just enjoy it. You know, write down notes, take something so you know what you loved about the school, what you didn't like, what you would like to see. You know, how was the team, how was the guys, your relationship with the coaches, like were the coaches interactive, you know, the campus. Like, think about it, this is where you're going to be for the next 4 or 5 years. So make sure it's somewhere that you want to be and enjoy. You know, for me, it's not. A lot of parents look and say, oh man, you know, you went to the U, his mom went to the U. It's just a given that he's going to the U, and in reality, he can go where he want to go. I just want him to enjoy this process and make the decision, because it's a total different era. You know, these kids, what they look for in schools at this stage, we didn't have. We didn't have all of these buildings and all this NIL. You know, like, we didn't have that. It was just, we had to get our fit from the guys, you know, like, oh yeah, I belong in this locker room. Compared to them, they want the uniforms, the locker room, the training table, you know, like, hey, man, you could take me up right here on this track, you know, I'm just getting to it. So they look at different things, but I tell him, just enjoy the process, man. Like, be thankful that you're blessed and you have enough talent for these teams to even want you, you know, and take it all in. You know, don't let it overwhelm you. Like, you don't have to hurry up and, oh, I want to go here. Like, enjoy the process.
Does he know that you didn't want to play defensive back in college?
Yeah,
He's a DB.
Yeah, he knows, and that's part of the reason why I kept him on the defensive side of the ball. I think I would have been a hell of a DB as well. But
Well, you were plenty fast enough, right?
oh yeah. That was a given. So I just didn't. You know, it was a different time. My hunger was totally different. Like, I think he loves playing DB. Well, I loved playing DB, but we had, you know, my best friend was a DB, so the competition was just like, hey, man, you got that. I'll handle it over here, you know. So it was just one of those things.
You mentioned talking to Camden about wanting to find a place where he could be 4 to 5 years. That's not really the case anymore for most of the college football players, or for a large portion of college football players with the transfer portal and everything. Have you been able to talk to Camden much about the transfer portal and how that's affected things?
Yeah, I think when we have that conversation, coaches move around so much more than they did back then. Like, don't fall in love with a coaching staff, because the coaches can get fired, they can leave, you know, for a better situation. Everything that we discuss is more of like I'm saying, write down your reasons for why you want to go here, and then pick upon that, compared to, oh man, these coaches are going to be here. These coaches can get fired. You know, if you're not performing, and they're going to move on. You know, like, the realization of your job is kind of, it's always the next man up, especially in college and the NFL. It's the next man. It's somebody coming in every year that they're telling, hey, you're going to be the guy. You got this opportunity. So you got to get somewhere that you feel like, I can grow as a player, I'm comfortable, and I'm going to compete. Because you can't get to that situation where you feel like, oh, they told me this. I don't mean nothing. You're going to get these people fired. So you got to hold it down. So, you know, when we think, it's not, oh, I want to go to this school and we're going to transfer and we're going to do this. Like, we going to go and try to stick it out. We want to be committed. We want to make the right decision the first time and kind of stick it out.
Sounds good. Well, I know NIL has become a big piece of the recruiting process, whether the NCAA wants it or not. NIL has existed a long time before NIL became legal, we'll say, many places. But have you talked to Camden about just the effects of NIL on the game, on the recruiting process, on the evaluation process, things like that?
You know, we really haven't reached that point of talking NILs. It's just one of those, like, I've always wanted my kid to stay humble, like, stay focused and work to get here. You know, like, I could have used my name or my relationships to put you in position, but it feels better when you do it, you know, and all that's going to handle itself. You know, you look at NILs and the way these kids are getting paid, and, you know, in 2 years, you'll be able to sign with American Airlines, you know, like
Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, you'll be able to sign with whoever, but just get to that point. Like, don't cheat the process. Don't start thinking about getting paid, and when it's time, it'll work itself out, you know. But right now, it's not time. You still got to own your craft and get better, and that's what we try to focus on. Although NIL is huge, it'll be there when we get there, you know.
Very good. All right, that's Clinton Portis, big time. One of my favorite NFL players of all time. I might have a jersey in my closet with a Clinton Portis name on the back. I'm Adam Friedman for Rivals.com here at the Charlotte Rivals camp. Thanks so much, Clinton. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you.